everybody. Welcome to the new episode of the Get Down Fight podcast. So, what I want to talk about today is the UFC card 280. Especially there's two fight on that card. That's very interesting for me to talk about. The first fight is the main card event is Charles Oliveira against Islam, and the other one was Petri against Sugar Sean O'Malley. So, if we're talking about the big main event, I didn't think that was too of an interesting fight. There was a lot of build up. Who's going to be the coming out on top on that one? Charles had a lot of people cheering for him. Islam, he's approached the fight in his normal, relaxed but very determined way. But the fight, in my opinion, was kind of a letdown. I thought it was a little bit disappointment. But in the beginning of the fight, when we see how Charles Oliveira is opening the fight, he jumps with like a front kick, jumping front kick. And then he throws a high kick to the head. After that, Islam is just calm, collected. And when he does something, he's precise. So I would like to show a little bit what I'm talking about. So take a look at this. So what we're seeing right here is this is Charles Oliveira starting the fight. Comes out blazing, jumps front kick. Islam calm, collected, measuring his distance with the front. Then get a high kick, and then when he delivers something, boom, boom. All right, so I'm gonna stop right there and get back to what we're talking about. Is I've seen this happen a couple of times. Conor McGregor has done the same thing, jumping out with this high energy, very confident. And at first, when you first think about it, it's like, oh, okay, he's confident, he's relaxed, he doesn't care too much. So it's good for a fighter to be calm and relaxed and just free, right? But it has zero effect. And it makes me think, if you're throwing out something that has zero effect on the fight, I'm like, okay, why do you do it? And then I go into the emotional state of the fighter. Maybe he's too pumped up, maybe he's too crazy, maybe he wants to get the crowd cheering. I don't know. But there's something about these kind of openings or these kind of sequences where a fighter does these things and it kind of shows that they're not in there to be the finishing guy. Because when we looked at Islam, the only thing he reacted, he blocked, he didn't move out of distance, he was always jabbing, staying within the distance of the counterattack. And when he had the chance, he had two right on the button. And he continued doing this through the whole fight. So for you guys who haven't watched the fight, I don't want to be a spoiler, but Islam takes a submission in the second round. And the submission came after a punch to the head, a cross, I think. It takes him down and then submits him down on the canvas. I know it's probably tied as one of the best grapplers in the world, but come on, guys, we're talking about. I'm from the favela. These guys are so tough. When it comes down to it, they tap. I'm not putting myself in that situation. Say I wouldn't tap, I wouldn't do that because I don't want to be that couch potato telling the pro fighters how they should do it. But these guys are in it with a heart and soul. Some of the footage that I saw in advance of the fight, where Oliveira's cutting weight and he has the whole family around him, holding him, supporting him, trying to be there for him, and I was like, why is this so emotional? Why is it? Because you're talking about it like it's like could be the end of your life, right? And then you tap out. And I see this inconsistency is happening a lot with fighters, especially when they have a long fighting record and they're at the end of the career, motivation not that big, but they're heart and soul. So what I'm trying to say here is like an emotional fighter is not necessarily a good fighter. I think there can be benefits to that, to having your heart out there. But in every transaction, fighting, business, financial, the one who has the most clinical approach to it, who is not too much emotional bound up in the fight, I think has a benefit of coming out on top. So yeah, that was Islam and Charles Oliveira. Islam is now he won the fight. He's the world champion in the category, and it's interesting to see how he will uh, continue defending the belt. Yeah, so that's something I'm looking forward to. When it comes to Charles Oliveira, he was of course very disappointed. He talks a lot about, okay, I'm gonna get back. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. All these things. I think it's a lot of again emotional. It's a huge process, and don't get me wrong, guys, because when it comes down to it, it's extremely hard being a fighter at that level. Like we can never imagine how that could be unless you've been in that position, and like 99.9% of us will never be there. So when it comes down to it, much of respect for Charles Oliveira, a huge respect for Islam. Hoping that Charles Oliveira finds a smart fight business move to move on, not necessarily go for a second title fight or like a revenge. I would love to see him do something that benefits him in the position that he is in now, financially, sports, emotionally. At the end of the day, all of this fighting systems, they are systems for us to develop as human beings. But in this UFC circus, it's hard. It's very easy to get distracted. So when it comes down to it, or I hope that Charles Oliveira finds a very meaningful way to continue his path in his life. All right, so let's jump over to the second fight with Sugar Sean O'Malley. It's a fantastic character, very easy to recognize with his colorful hair, all his tattoos. I think he's got some face tattoos as well. Seems like a very reflective guy. Seen him in several different kind of podcasts. So I like the personality, relaxed, true to the game, hungry, just wants to develop as a person and as a fighter. His opponent I didn't know too much about. Seen in a couple of fights. He just looks like a machine. No emotion, just works. Grinding all the time. But there's some magic over Sugar Sean O'Malley, and he did show that during the fight, but it looks like a war machine when Petri comes at him. Like he just non-stops, just keeps grinding on his fighting abilities and the pressure, moving forward. Uh, and Sugar Sean O'Malley, it looked like he was caught off guard, like he wasn't prepared enough for the fight. And there's been a lot of controversy on like he didn't win that fight. He's like the UFC is just protecting his career and want to build him up as a superstar, and this split decision and happened after 3 rounds. It was like they gave him the fight. They gave him the win. Um, so looking at the big picture, I think Sugar Sean, if he uses this win as a possibility as a chance to kind of develop himself as a fighter, that would be awesome. Coming up at the level at heavyweight champion like John Jones, like they're doing magic in the octagon. They're throwing elbows, they're doing techniques, they're doing takedowns that we haven't even practiced on. They're just developing, they're just making up stuff while they're fighting. So that's like the true Budo spirit, like the mind of the warrior, just developing, adapting to the situation. And I'm certainly sure that Sugar Sean O'Malley can do the same thing. But I think it's easy to get distracted. I see a lot of these jewelries, external confirmation things happening. It's a cliche as old as time itself. Like you gotta have the eye of the tiger. You gotta be hungry. You can't replace that hunger with like the comfortable part of it. And I think for him, hopefully he will use this as a possibility to improve himself and to be hungry, to strip himself of all that external distraction, that noise that's surrounding him. So I would love to see him do more of just getting down to it. You know, what we saw in Connor in the beginning. I think that's one of the things that we loved about Connor when we see him from coming up in the start. You know, after he left Cage Warriors, double champ there. It's like, what's his style? He doesn't have a style. He just copy movements. You know, he can watch animals in the jungle and just find out how to grapple or how to approach his prey, you know. So I think that's what we connected, like kind of reinvented the approach. You didn't need to be like a kung fu, karate, jiu-jitsu, boxing background, you know. So he loved movement. He just saw it like human expression in every different form, and that kind of buzzes around Sugar Sean O'Malley for me. Um, so hopefully he will step up and do that for his future fights. So he's certainly entertaining fighting, and he's super fast. I was impressed, man. His frequency is so high when exchanging punches, going in 1-2, and then going out again and moving around. You know, when he's able to do that, he will park anyone. But then again, it's trying to uh, create a fight where you're able to be in a position where you can bring your game plan, where you can execute your style. The best fighters, the best opponents will break that rhythm, break that style, and pull you into their game, and then it's hard. It's hard to be the best that you can be. So Sugar Sean O'Malley needs to develop, in my opinion, more in that direction. Strip it down, make it more clear and true to the game, and just be creative, be without compromise. Just yeah, eat, sleep, train, and kind of feel that flow again. Not too many podcasts, and not running around doing distractions. So these are the two biggest fights, and in my opinion, that was a much more exciting fight than the Islam fight. Uh, so that's so funny with these kind of big UFC fights. You know, even the main card does not necessarily become the coolest fights, even though they're paid the highest or the best athletes. So it's always cool to watch these fights in this kind of high level. So yeah, recapping. Uh, Congratulations to Islam. Great win, great fight, or a great way uh, to win over a great fighter. Much respect to Charles Oliveira. Hope he will continue developing himself as a person. I don't see what's next for him right now. Hopefully, he will just center himself emotionally and find out how he wants to continue his life, if it's in fighting or not. Anyway, wish him all the best. Sugar Sean O'Malley, hope he kind of reinvents himself a little bit again, get us a little bit of that sugar that we want to see. And yeah, that's all for now. Have a good one, guys, and stay safe.